to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. How are you? You can tell we've been pre-gaming just a little bit by that intro.
Yeah, our unpaid intern really blew that one.
Union only from now on. Hi, we did a little, look what we did. We switched. I'm on the left where I belong.
That's true, but I'm always right. So let's leave it at that.
There you go. Mostly it was a project of vanity for me because my eyes were crossing from the other side. So it took me a year to figure out this was my better angle, like Barbara Streisand.
Yeah, we're good. So how was your week? Let's get it out of the way real quick so we can get the Andrew on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Week was good, really hectic. Had to put myself on tape for an audition. So now I feel like I really am like busting all the union rules where I'm like having to tape myself and edit it and send it in. An actor's life for me. It just never, they're getting blood from a stone over here. And we just had a great time on the People's Voice Network show a couple hours ago. So thank you guys for having us on. That was super fun. And now I'm so happy to be here with you. How was your week?
I have nothing to report of any interest to anyone on earth. So I'm just going to say, let's start the show with Andrew. What do you think?
Let's start the show. We are super excited to have Andrew Perez here today. Independent. Are you putting him on or am I? Where's our unpaid journalist? Hey, Andrew. Independent journalist from The Lever, which you guys do such fantastic reporting. We are so grateful to you. Thank you for coming on. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we hear it's a little hot and humid in your neck of the woods.
It is, unfortunately so. Yeah.
It's well, the good news is though, we just passed this, the most substantive climate bill in the history of mankind, which we'd love to break down with you.
Sure.
Yeah. Should we just get right into it? Let's start with what are the three best parts? What are some of the best parts of this bill? Because right now I'm feeling pretty angry and desperate and sad.
This isn't something I'm used to, talking about like things that are good.
I know, me neither. Sorry. You don't have to.
Yeah. Well, I guess like in a sense, it's good that the Senate, has managed to pass some type of climate bill. It's probably a good thing that the legislation will extend the expanded subsidies for people who are on Affordable Care Act insurance plans. It's not, I think, the way you should be expanding coverage by any means, but it's going to at least keep people from having some immediate hit to their finances next month or in a few months. And then, it's probably, I guess, a marginally good thing that the government's going to be negotiating drug prices for the first time. It's just kind of unfortunate that plan has been really stripped down about as thoroughly as one could do it. It's been gutted from kind of every which direction by the industry, the pharmaceutical industry and its allies, chiefly among them Kirsten Sinema. So, it's sort of a very, very mixed bag. I think, we've seen that, climate groups are like mostly supportive of the bill, but I think there's a real bargain there that's happening, right? Like it's going to really lock in new fossil fuel development for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds pretty miserable. It's so much less than what it was supposed to be. It's a fraction of what we're spending on our military. It's one of the biggest polluters on the globe. Mm-hmm. And then, yes, the fossil fuel industry is celebrating it. So those three facts together make me feel sort of hopeless.
Yeah. I mean, sort of our working principle at the Lever, sort of, at least in our own conversations, has just been like, can you really have a good climate bill if Exxon and Shell and BP are saying like this bill rocks? It definitely raises a pretty major question there. And yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll really know how good or bad it is for, a few years, but it should certainly raise red flags, to say the least.
Yeah. And I think also and then Pat, I'm sorry, I'm going to let you talk. I just wanted to put up the Build Back Better bill that didn't end up coming to the floor, or, they separated out the BIF from, and they told us we were going to get back to, was already so much less than what we had been promised. And then this is even leaving out, and it might block your face, so I'm sorry just for a moment, but this is leaving out universal pre-K, childcare, elder care, child tax credit, housing, community college, the EITC expansion, closing the Medicaid gap, immigration, tax rate hikes, millionaire surtax, ending carried loophole interest, which all of the mainstream media places are talking about how it does have that carried loophole interest, but it doesn't, right? I mean, so that, what do Democrats stand for? I thought we wanted all those things.
Yeah, I mean, right now it sounds like they stand for an all of the above energy strategy, which is, really not probably encouraging for anyone's future on this planet. They clearly failed to find a way to raise the corporate tax rate. They allowed the private equity industry to escape, pretty not only unscathed, but in that they no longer had to worry about having the carried interest loophole that they all benefit from trimmed even a little bit. But they actually managed to secure, thanks to Kirsten Sinema, again, a carve out that's going to allow them to dodge the corporate minimum tax that's supposed to be like sort of paying for the bulk of this bill. There's a 15% corporate minimum tax under this bill, and private equity subsidiaries will not be counted towards that at all. So it's a pretty giant loophole, and a good reminder of who really runs Washington.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask, like, do you ultimately see this as still a net benefit? Because my opinion of it is, all these efforts, every section that you break into, climate change, climate part is approved by Exxon, right? So the pharmaceutical stuff, the pharmaceutical company probably didn't push back too much on the minimum that they've got, which was like 10 drugs or so phased in over, it was like the 5 years until the first discount, the first negotiating drug prices takes effect. And it's very limited. They didn't get insulin, which is the easiest thing in the world to get people to support. Mm-hmm. So to me, doing the bare minimum actually is a benefit to those corporations, because it placates voters. It takes the angst. It makes it look like Democrats did something about all these issues, which it doesn't get us closer to a solution. It takes us farther in some ways, in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like a risk that we're running here, where it's like, now you've kind of allowed people to think like, okay, we've handled climate change, right? We've handled Medicare drug negotiation. Like those things are handled. They're not. They're definitely not handled. It's going to be, a continued fight to make sure that this bill is not a net negative, I would say. So it's actually pretty instructive that what the drug industry has done compared to the fossil fuel industry, because the drug industry like fought this bill in this measure tooth and nail the whole way. Even as it kept getting scaled back and scaled back and scaled back, like they fought it till the very end, right? That's not what you saw from the fossil fuel industry. So for me, that's really instructive. Like these industries will fight anything that costs them $1. Like anything they believe is going to cost them $1, right, they're gonna pour 10, 20, $30 million into swamping the airwaves. Like, and I've like seen some of the ads, right? Like from the pharmaceutical groups and like these conservative groups who are funded by the pharma, by big pharma. The oil industry, meanwhile, did not fight this. In fact, there's like all this reporting about how actually like Republicans were trying to get the oil industry to say like to speak out about this bill, and they couldn't even get them to do it. So there's a major red flag there.
Right.
And also I think the difference I'm just thinking out loud here, but the oil industry, like Exxon, they own such a piece of the government that they're going to get some of the green energy profits. They're going to carve out a way for them to still make money in climate change resolution, even if it never fixes the problem. They're going to get the contracts for certain things, and some of those are guaranteed in this bill. Right. But the pharmaceutical industry negotiating prices is just a net loss for them. So it makes sense that they would fight it to the death.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
So I know you've mentioned Kirsten Sinema twice, and I know that she is the the villain du jour. But it was really fascinating to me that Bernie Sanders kept trying to add amendments that ostensibly all Democrats or most Democrats support. I think some of them are part of the Democratic platform, and he got pushback even from those people that we were told are just as progressive as Bernie, like Sherrod Brown, Cory Booker, I mean, whatever. But that was really like, how is it that they can keep doing this so publicly, and the vote blue no matter who crowd doesn't, like, they actually were mad at Bernie. It's like, I don't get it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's probably worth like considering, like, this whole reconciliation effort was Bernie's bill, right? Like it was his bill at first. He's the guy like managing the process, and he
Right.
got just completely, thrown to the side. But what you're talking about with them voting down his amendments to, expand Medicare benefits to cover dental and vision, and also to raise the corporate tax rate and to reinstate the expanded child tax credit. So those all got voted down in like a display of party unity, where they just, the sort of like rationale given was that these senators just didn't want to mess with like a really balanced negotiated bill that was, just so close to teetering on the edge. Who knows if it'll pass? That shit all just went immediately out the window when the private equity amendment from Republicans came up, right? Then you had 7 Democrats, including some who I was a little surprised to see, voting for that private equity amendment, exempting them from the corporate minimum tax. So, definitely highly instructive, right? Like there's party unity for dunking on the left, and there's, when the corporate measure comes up, it's really like, vote, go with God. It's really a ridiculous situation.
Yeah, it really is. And as much as I think some of us, I'm always going to love Bernie. I'm disappointed, in some aspects, but this picture kind of just broke my heart all over again. Because I do, I do not subscribe to the sheepdog philosophy. I don't think that that's really what his agenda is. But to see him be so betrayed by the party that he just keeps trying to, drag over the finish line, and to do it for what they know the majority of their voters want, even a majority of the country, honestly, it's just kind of stunning to watch it happen in front of everybody, like this shameless sort of, all of those tweets that went out from Cory Booker and Sherrod Brown, like they did that publicly to try to shame him for what? For trying to advance the exact policies that they promised they were going to give us.
Yeah. It's just instructive, right? Like there's it.
That's a gentle word. Yes.
Yeah. I just mean, there's always, going to be like an argument made in the Democratic caucus as it's currently assembled, that like any kind of, really anything that's like a progressive item that, might be considered a core agenda item for the entire party at large, there's always going to be an argument against it, that like including it's gonna wreck something, while, the big companies are just winning. It shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, this was sort of how it was always going to go, right? With this is why it was always kind of I mean, God, if we really want to go back to 2020, it's why, the idea that Bernie was going to be able to like work from the inside and, push Joe Biden to the left, like it was always a harder pitch than it was presented. Obviously.
Yeah. I mean, they wouldn't have all dropped out and put Biden there if we could move him left. That's not what they're paid to do, to move left.
And now we're being sold this narrative that just, you got to give the Dems a win. We need wins, because otherwise Trump gets the next election, So I mean, it's the same propaganda you're always going to get from sort of the centrist Democrat, normie Democrat, that criticisms of the party are hurting us electorally, which now can lead to fascism. You know, the same stuff we've heard for 10 years, but it's actually more accurate now than it was then. I mean, now that's the unfortunate part, is that they're actually correct in some ways, but it still is. What does it mean if we all are silent of the problems and errors within the Democratic Party? We can't,
right.
That doesn't get us anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, look, Joe Biden's numbers have been like in the absolute toilet, right? Like they've fallen about as hard as you can. Like, so, he might, like, in theory need a little bit of a win, like in a narrative perspective. Like this might help a little bit. Like this might, like, cause even the liberal media was like sort of dunking on him liberal media has been dunking on him for, basically like once they saw the really poor poll numbers, like that gets then reflected in coverage, and it probably has an effect to actually continue driving down his approval rating. So like maybe there's like a slight argument there, but like, on the other hand, I think there is an inherent risk to, telling people we lowered your drug prices and it doesn't happen, like that is a risky proposition. This bill is called the Inflation Reduction Act, right? Like, God knows if it's actually going to do literally anything to reduce inflation in the near term.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I don't. So God forbid inflation is up after 2 years of the Inflation Reduction Act. You can easily on the Republican side argue what an abysmal failure that is. Yeah. And we need to go back to letting free market decide drug prices or something.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And look at after the infrastructure, that was supposed to be some huge bill but I don't think anybody feels a difference, right? Like prices are up, wages are still down, people are still having to balance gig jobs. So the two big wins for the Biden administration, I don't think people are going to feel. I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of sort of propaganda and manufacturing of a narrative of like, oh, it's the biggest climate bill. But I think as we continue to see global warming and, one event after another of the hottest summer and the floods and the rains and the pollution, I don't know how long that's going to carry, apart from like the MSNBC crowd.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all super depressing. And we do, we have a bunch of, some of your reporting about that bill, but I wanted to make sure before we lose you that we move on to your other big piece this week, which was, I'm going to find it here, sorry, about Glenn Kessler, the fact checker from Washington Post, whom I can't stand anyway from years ago when he gave Bernie, 3 Pinocchios for saying that 550,000 people go into medical bankruptcy every year. And even though Kessler's working for the other side of the aisle, basically, or whatever, the, corporate side, it's like, it's 565,000 or something, but tell us about his latest embarrassment, please.
Sure. Well, so, there was that whole story last month, and it became like, a national news story about, a child who was raped in Ohio and had to go to Indiana for an abortion. And the second Joe Biden mentioned it, like conservatives all pounced, and it created this like absolutely horrid news cycle where everyone was just questioning whether this could have happened, despite it, actually probably happening all the time. All like constantly, a constant issue in this country and probably around the world. Anyway, Glenn Kessler wrote this absolutely disgusting fact checker column about basically like saying that a viral news story was pinned on this one source and sort of questioning whether it was okay to have, a single source story that was literally based around one doctor on the record who performed the abortion. And that's, we kind of subsequently learned that he viewed her as an activist in one side of the debate, and like couldn't necessarily be trusted on her own, this doctor. But so he, after the news came out that a man had been arrested for committing this crime, they had to completely update this story in addition to a lot of other news coverage. Like there had been this Wall Street Journal piece about how it was too good to be true, which is disgusting. But Kessler, then he mentioned in this column in his like update that he's like, we had contacted all these county children's services agencies, and they didn't have record of it. And then he mentioned that the one that actually had made the referral, the criminal referral, had he said that the Franklin County officials did not offer a response. And so what we found through a public records request was that was completely wrong. Not only had they responded rather quickly to him, they said they couldn't comment on case because they couldn't comment on specific cases because that information is treated as confidential under Ohio law, which makes sense, right? Like you would think that like stuff involving like children's services is like specific cases are confidential, and like there's a whole statute, or there's several statutes in Ohio on this topic. So yeah, anyway, we contacted the Washington Post to just be like, what happened here? Like, how did this happen? Presented them with like the quotes from the emails, and they then corrected the piece. I have no idea why it is still up. He has not offered like any kind of like apology for this really at all. He's just been going about his damn day, fact checking like Joe Biden on talking about inflation. It's really disturbing when this is like the fact checker, right? Like this is like the person who is the supposedly neutral arbiter of fact, which was never accurate. But this is really, really ugly.
It is, and it was really good.
Well, weren't there two corrections? Like there was a correction to the correction. Basically, which just shows you like they're still hiding behind misinformation. So if it was an honest mistake or something, your correction is accurate. You don't need a second correction.
Yeah. Well, they said he missed this email. Which you don't really want to like write in a news story that someone did not respond to comment before like you make sure that they didn't respond for comment. It's sort of like a basics of like any like journalism anywhere, like literally anywhere, and let alone at the Washington Post. It's like, a prestigious paper. Like I can't believe they allowed that to happen.
I mean, you left out formerly.
Can you really? Yeah,
I'll add that for you.
Jeffrey Bezos's paper. I mean, a little bit. It reminds me of the Mayor Pete thing with the Frederick Douglass plan that he had, where he was like, "If you don't email me back by 3 p.m., I'm going to assume that all you activists are on board." To Black leaders across the country. But yeah, I mean, and also it was used like disgustingly, as you said, as fodder for people who just can't believe that something like that could happen, and the whole people on the right and anti-abortion people, and it goes. It's why I don't even like to say, and sorry, I don't mean to pull you two into this is me talking, but that it's complicated, because I feel like as soon as you say, oh, well, for exceptions for, rape and incest, but, for a lot of people, they don't know they're pregnant right away. And maybe they don't want to go to the police. And how long does it take to prove that it was rape? And in all that time, you are living with this, thing happening to you. So once again, this is just further ammunition for me to say, abortion on demand whenever. And this is just me. I don't mean to be dragging you into my thing, but like, I don't want to hear any of the qualifications for it, because this is how it gets muddied, and people can really weaponize it in disgusting ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my question is, what do you suppose, what was the motive per se? I mean, I know you might not want to jump into that, but is it protecting Biden that things aren't so terrible in the country over this, on a certain level? Like,
you mean that's why Glenn Kessler was trying to do that?
Yeah. Why? Yeah.
I mean, in his mind, he probably thinks he needs to have like take some stories from liberals and take like some cues from conservatives. I'm sure that's what it is. Like
fair and balanced.
So it's keeping an audience in a way. Like, I mean,
it's just keeping up the bullshit norm of objectivity. Like it's just completely fake. Like that's what passes as balance. Is like sometimes I dunk on Trump, and sometimes I, follow the like absolutely like insane conservative mob, like 4-story ideas. I mean, alternatively, he might also just have no respect for women or no respect for, people
victims or children or
victims or people.
I'm going to go on the record as saying I just said that. He has no respect for women.
It could, I don't know. I mean, look, I don't know him. I just think that this is it's a pretty ridiculous place to like. It is
the hill to die on, right? Yeah.
It's a choice to cover that fact. Like you don't have to fact check that issue.
No. I mean, what's the fact check? Like he's literally like, I called some police. I called like the governor's office for comment, and I contacted these children's service agencies, which as we're saying, are not going to tell you anything if they have a case there. Like they're legally obligated to not do that. So I think it's like a fundamental misunderstanding of like anyone's role as a journalist. I mean, yeah, that's really what it seems to be. It's like, because you're not going to be able to fact check a story like this. Like you're dealing with like a case involving like a 10-year-old girl. Not going to happen.
And I would think to not know that is ridiculous. Like to, so that makes what he did, I don't want to call it evil, egregious. But like it's more egregious because he knows what he's doing is how I look at that. Like
he should be
clear.
Yeah, he should.
And if he doesn't, that's a pox on him as a journalist. I mean,
journalist. Yeah. Who's gonna? Well, we're grateful to you for fact checking the fact checkers.
Thank you. I'll tell you, he told the social services, the children's service agency, that his job, he says, his job is trying to verify facts in the news. Like, what a ridiculous job. What a completely made up job.
I mean, truly. Yeah. Because he's always choosing to frame it however it fits his fancy for the day. Right.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is, like, I think his, like, at least his performance over the years is like a perfect example of, you can like, find and contort and twist statistics to really say anything, like anything that you already think.
Yeah.
Like, you can do that. And like, the truth is, like, there is no such thing as objectivity. And like, in that, like, biases are reflected in story selection in media. Like, they're reflected in story selection and framing, and like this is a perfect example of it. Like here, he chose to like take a story doubting, like write a story doubting reporting about a 10-year-old rape victim. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah,
it is, especially really when you consider that we all know that happens a lot. Like that's not a one-off situation. So to pick that one case and say, well, this one probably didn't happen. Like, what's your motive?
Right.
Yeah, well, he even he said that like that it's like abortions by like people under 15 are rare in Ohio.
Rare.
When he was like, he said there's only like 50 of them a year, and it's like, that's one every month, or sorry, one every week. You're saying there's one a week, and like that's just what you know about. That's just what's being reported. So like the idea that it's rare is, like, by his own statistics, not rare.
Right. And also his silly fact check that wasn't even accurate is helping fuel an argument against abortions being safe and legal. So like, in what service? Like, as you said, you choose the facts that you quibble with.
Right.
So what was that serving? Yeah.
And now you've got Facebook turning over
private DMs.
Messages,
Did you see that?
To go after a rape victim.
17-year-old girl and her mother have been charged with a series of felonies and misdemeanors after an apparent medication abortion at home in Nebraska. And the state's case relies on the teenager's private Facebook messages obtained from Facebook by a court order. So do not write in the Facebook DMs. I would get that off your apps no matter what anyway. But
yeah. I mean, it's funny because there has been this sort of like among conservatives, they've been like, yeah, right. Like, really, like, oh, you really have to worry about your period tracker app, but like, clearly you might have to worry about your apps. Like, but the thing about it is, like, so much of the anti-abortion campaign is like predicated on just like never giving an inch to anyone, right? It's like just like I'm right, you're wrong, and like just steamrolling through any counter evidence. And that, I mean, that's what happened with this story, right? With the Ohio story, is like they just want to be like, all right, that's fake. It's just fake. And
Right.
like, you know, since they've been proven otherwise, it's just like on to the next. We're just on to the next thing. There's never going to be like anyone who's like, wow, I learned something today in that movie.
Right.
It's just not
Right.
gonna happen.
Yeah. Which is, again, why I feel like anytime somebody starts to be like, well, it's complicated, and you know, I want to reject that for that very reason. Like, of course, everyone has decisions to make, and those are personal and private, but abortion is healthcare, and that's just kind of the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, and it's only getting more complicated, right? Like in these states with these like total abortion bans, it's like,
Right.
you know, women are coming in there like because they have like ectopic pregnancies, and like they can't get care up until they're like bleeding out. Like this is happening like all over the country. So like,
yeah,
you know, pregnancies are complicated, right? Like it's complicated.
Yeah.
That is complicated. And the idea that like you can just have a total ban on abortion without any kind of human repercussions is it's not only nonsense, it's a lie. And these people have always known that's a lie. It's not about that. It's about power and control and just
Yeah. Well, he told on himself once again.
Yes.
But thank you for revealing that. We so appreciate that. And all of your journalism and all you guys over there. I mean, we follow all of you. I'm so appreciative of it because so few people name the names of the villains who are making the rest of us victims, right? You know, whether it's victims of climate change or low wages or whatever it is. I feel like you guys are so you know, scrupulous with detailing exactly who is perpetrating this on all of us. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very kind of you.
Yeah. Pat, do you have anything to say before we're about to get to our silly topic wheel where we drink too much and act kind of ridiculous, and I don't want to make you complicit in that. So Pat, what do you want to say?
The feed is sort of cutting out of me, so sorry if I cut anyone off. But Andrew, I appreciate everything you do. I think there are so few sources of honest journalism out there that can be trusted. I put the lever up there at the top with a handful. I mean, honestly, it's really sad, but so everyone should. I think everyone should support you guys.
Go follow
David
Andrew.
Schroeder has been a fantastic ally of the left, and cheers. Keep it up, man. I appreciate you coming on our show very much.
All right. Happy to do it. And anytime you want me back, just let me know.
Oh, you're going to regret saying that.
I won't. No, this is great.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
Cheers.
All right, you too.
Take care. Well, that was amazing. I'm so seriously so grateful. I get, the Lever news in my inbox every day. I'm a subscriber. I listen to the podcast. So that was kind of that was a fun segment for me to have somebody I respect so much on. Pretty cool. In spite of what we do here.
I was going to say, I normally don't drink in front of people I respect, like my professors, actual journalists.
I wish I could say the same.
Yeah, cheers. But
you know me and my my daily intake. So speaking of, let's get that wheel up. Let's get going.
Should we?
Yeah, we should. We got a lot to talk about. It's been a lot going on in the news this week. Let's get that wheel up there.
Fair enough. Sure.
You doing it?
Let's have a shot though. I mean, let's get your shot ready while the wheel is going. So we're just going to start with the shot because we have some catching to do.
All right, we do. All right, you ready? Wait 1 second.
Cheers.
1 second. Yes. Okay. You ready? Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Let's get going.
Woo!
That's
what I'm talking about.
Wow. Did I mention I have to set my alarm for 3:30 in the morning to take a flight to Massachusetts? What? 3:30 in the morning. Do I even go to bed? Wow, that one hit really hard because I did have two drinks before.
Yeah,
And I can see
3:30.
my face.
Personally, I would not go to sleep with a 3:30 trip.
Really?
It's a tough one because you're going to struggle to go to sleep so badly that it's.
I know.
I don't know.
No,
From my
you're right.
experience,
And
I'm
I'm
just
going to
better
feel.
off staying up.
I think you might be right. I already packed like a little bit of extra stuff for the plane. I have my plane pillow.
All right.
All right. That was really awesome. I'm so pleased that Andrew came on and really have appreciated the Levers writing on this bill and calling out all of the lies being perpetrated by the Dems on this. So yeah. All right, let's spin it, right? I'm putting ice in my drink.
Let's go.
Yeah, baby.
The sound effects don't even go anymore.
I know we got to work on that one, right?
Do we? Yeah, probably.
I don't know. It's kind of fun. Keeps us
Winging it.
surprised. I'm getting used to myself on the left here.
Oh, that's right. We made a switch. This is a major move here at
Major
Punch Up
upheaval
Pod.
at Punch Up Pod.
Like we had a big vote.
Well, okay. So, right now we've got like wars on a few different fronts, right? So we've got Ukraine, Russia, we've got possible Taiwan, thanks to Nancy Pelosi. We've got Israel and Hamas and Palestine, Gaza Strip and the West Bank. I just wanted to start really quickly because last week there was something in a Thomas Friedman op-ed, and I can't stand that guy, but it wasn't even about Ukraine, but he kind of let this slide, and I thought it was interesting. I think this was about Pelosi going to Taiwan, but he's writing about that. His side note is the Ukraine war is not over, and privately, U.S. officials are a lot more concerned about Ukraine's leadership than they're letting on. There's deep mistrust between the White House and President Zelensky of Ukraine, considerably more than has been reported. And there is funny business going on in Kyiv because Zelensky had just fired a bunch of people in his administration. And I thought, Thomas Friedman doesn't say anything without the approval of the State Department, right? Like he is a talking piece for the Pentagon and for the administration. So for him to start letting that out, I thought that was just kind of interesting that they're about to, are they going to assassinate him or cut him loose or what?
Well, it feels like they're going to start letting the American people down softly, that this was a mistake, or not that it was a mistake, but that, maybe that's how they will frame it. Like, turns out Americans did the right thing. They backed him, but he's the bad guy. Maybe they're going to put it on him. He's caught up in the Panama Papers, more stuff, or Pandora Papers, excuse me, showing my age. But his corruption, like before this war started, he was really in the dumps with his own people because he was shown to be investing offshore and complete criminal. They really hated him, but then he defended his country in this war. His popularity went back up. But recently some more stuff came out about him. Is that a coincidence also? Like, they're looking for a safe landing on all of this, and they're losing the war in Ukraine. Which certainly was always going to happen.
Right. And yet they're so that was last week. And then just was this yesterday that the United States has authorized our biggest security assistance package to date for Ukraine, ammunition, weapons, equipment. It just feels like they're just trying to parse out all that money to defense contractors and, the MIC before we get out of there, right? I'm just trying to figure out why they go back and forth like that.
Or, truly prolonging this war is the biggest win for the military-industrial complex. So, whether you're ever going to win the war or not, it's just like we got out of Afghanistan. We need to justify some form of spending around the world, and obviously we have like 1 million bases everywhere. But we need a war. We need an actual war to justify all those bases as well.
Yeah.
So,
and then there was this a CBS documentary that revealed that only 30% of the weapons and ammunition are getting to the armies that they're intended for in Ukraine. Did you? So this was
So that leaves 70% of the weaponry is going where? Okay, so probably to the others. We're probably arming more Russians, to be honest. I mean,
yeah.
Or
they're selling it on the black
arming?
market. I mean, we're just flooding Eastern Europe with weapons as we sit here talking about the gun violence problem in our own country.
Yeah, as we neglect all these problems in our own country. I mean, as LA has the same budget as the military in most countries.
Yep. Yeah,
I'm
is.
Salty.
War
I'm just
is
salty today. That's all I got.
It's a big racket. Well, let's just show, this is a minute of the clip from the CBS documentary that they were then shamed into taking it down by Zelensky and his administration.
In the past 2 months, we've moved weapons and equipment to Ukraine at record speed. Drones, grenade launchers, machine guns.
We're seeing this incredible, historic flow of weapons coming into Ukraine. Do we have any sense as to where they're going?
We don't know. There is really no information as to where they're going at all.
You know, all this stuff goes to the border, and then kind of like something happens, it kind of like 30% maybe reaches its final destination.
30%? Are you concerned about weapons getting into the wrong hands?
I don't care at all whether that happens.
What sort of a unit do you command? Can't say. Okay.
You know, there are like power lords, oligarchs, political players.
One of the biggest targets are convoys like this transporting weapons.
Вот там возле мы ехали, только что въебались сюда, прямо в пост. За деревьями. Вот там Орлан идет.
Europeans had come to believe that that project of integration had effectively meant the banishment of armed force. All of a sudden, not far from the borders of the EU, was the most significant war since World War II.
I love that he can't say what kind of unit he commands. Can't talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, clearly this is a proxy war for the US against Russia, but it's not even, it really to me feels like it's entirely to give the military industrial complex money and justify
billions
arms.
and billions of dollars.
Okay, if 30% of these weapons are only 30% of getting to the Ukrainians, who's to say that these arms makers aren't just recycling the weapons? Who's to say they even are bringing weapons over? I mean, I honestly don't know. And we've seen the U.S. government do this bullshit before where, I don't know.
And then to be shamed to take
conspiracy theorist, but like,
well, it's hard not to, but right. Cause then CBS removes the documentary on Ukraine military aid after pressure from the Ukrainian government. Like they're not, they didn't refute it. They didn't say that's because it's untrue. I saw one piece that said something about, well, they're talking about the weapons from April. Well, that I think was our biggest transfer of weapons to Ukraine was in April. So like, okay, great. Even if it stopped right after that, where are they? Whose hands are they in? And, you know, I think of that horrible ghoul. I was going to call her something else, but I just checked myself. Hillary Clinton talking about Hillary Clinton talking about how we're going to follow the same path that we did when we were arming the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, right? And we know how that ended with Osama bin Laden and 9/11. Like we are arming people who are not, and 2022 is the year where my liberal friends will say, well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And they're talking about Nazis when they say that, right? When I'm like, I don't think we should be arming the right sector and the Azov battalion. Like, can we just agree that they're also the bad guys? Nope. They are now supposed to be our friends.
Yeah, and you got to look at who Joe Biden is. Joe Biden is an old school Democrat, so an old school politician. So he still comes from the mindset of a war gets you out of political trouble because people will get
Yeah.
behind you in a war, right? So we've got Ukraine as his number one thing, Ukraine. And meanwhile, the public, they may support the war with Ukraine, but they don't ultimately support all the money going over there in lieu of social programs. They really don't.
No.
That support isn't there. It's fabricated.
Yeah.
Right. So, getting out of Afghanistan, this is an avenue for him to say, they put inflation is on this war. Like, we have to do this. So it's a moral imperative that we fight this war, period, which ultimately is not going to work with the American voters and the public who is suffering sees that they keep bragging
about always money for them. Yeah.
Billions and billions are going to Ukraine. Every week there's a new authorized new billions.
Yeah.
And that isn't going to work. But he is trying to sell it as if it's
like a moral duty to do it, and the Americans are behind it, and they definitely aren't. And I think I do think that Zelensky has outplayed his hand, because he is sort of publicly trying to shame people for not being 100% supportive. And I think, for a while when they were floating him on the cover of Vogue and the Grammys and the Oscars or whatever, I don't think that's working anymore. And I think that's why people like Thomas Friedman are being allowed to slowly craft this withdrawal about, but we'll see.
I honestly think the Vogue pictures, that was his jump the shark moment, where people are like, this is kind of weird. Like, you're doing glam GQ pictures.
Yeah.
While your country's suffering. And there's, and so the more people see that and might go to Twitter and see views like ours or others who are like offering the criticism that they should see from the media should be talking about, at least give people a fair shake on what's involved. Talk about
and the rest of the world too, right?
And talk about so
because the rest of the world is not on board. I mean, it's Europe is on board with the US, but the global South is not on board with this war. Or abiding by the sanctions that we're trying to force, Africa to not commit with us, but to employ with us. They don't want to be told by us who they have to sanction.
No, and all that is about mineral resources in Africa, right? More or less. But but I mean, look at all the things happening right now. So Pelosi going to Taiwan, for example.
Yeah.
Why do that in the face of a government who doesn't support her position on that? I mean, obviously she went there to check on her stocks and all that bullshit, but
with her son. Yeah.
But the risk to our country, by taking an action like that, these are distractions. These are creating this military tension, which is something that Biden has grown up. It's burned in his brain, if there's much brain left there, that distractions about war are how you get out of being a bad president. You change the narrative with war.
Right. Yeah. And in the end, like everything else, you follow the money, right? It's always about money and power. And that was Nancy Pelosi's big show of going over to Taiwan.
Yeah. So here's what she accomplished with that. Stimulated cyber attacks, got thousands of businesses banned from exporting to China, shut down important cross-strait communication tool Weibo, which I don't even know, right? Elicited mainland military exercises and stimulated an imminent temporary blockade. So, I mean, China pushed back. China is a big power.
They're going to start talking about when China wages war on us, the unprovoked war that China wages on. The way I always talk about, the Russian aggression, unprovoked. That's going to be like the phrase that always has to precede it.
The weird thing to me is that some of my normie Dem friends who are not very progressive, are criticizing the Democratic Party over the China stuff. And they think we're going to go to war with China, which is is that part of the Democratic Party's PR strategy to get them to think that way? Because I think that is not how they would want them to think. But it's just an observation that I'm seeing normie Democrats think that we're in imminent danger of going to war with China, which we aren't.
I don't think we are, but that's only because we're kind of relying on other people, not responding in kind
them
to
being
our
the adults in the room.
provocations. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right.
All right. Should we spin the wheel? Oh my God. I have to get up soon.
Yeah, we need a shot or two. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, baby.
That makes me sad because that's actually that we
It's the
need
worst
like a
sound
happy
to go with that.
Yeah, I'm okay. So we've got a lot of good union stuff. I mean, I do think that the CEOs are getting nervous. I want to just remind everybody that this is where we are right now. I know we've shown this a few times, but just a reminder of the inflation since 1978. College tuition has increased by over 1,000%. Medical care has increased by 600%. Food, and this is from a few months ago, so not even accurate anymore, but food has increased by 244%. Shelter has gone up by 360%. And meanwhile, the pay of a typical worker rose just by 10%. Minimum wage workers fell by 5.5%, and the average CEO increased salary by almost 1,000%. So that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And
just
nothing
to add Sacramento real quickly, because I use adverbs. I try to. Sacramento, 60% increase in homelessness since 2019. So that's in 3 years. In 3 years, there's 60% more homeless people in Sacramento.
That's
so.
horrifying.
I mean, these are real issues. This is not like some abstract, like, oh, the leftists are whining, So
it's real issues. And even when Democrats are in power, nothing changes, whether it's blue California or our whole United States, it doesn't change. So the one hope we have is organizing labor.
Yeah. Outside of politicians. So let's say you trust politicians, great, but still support unions because we see them having an actual impact, at least on worker pay and things that matter. Like we have power right now within unions.
That's right.
Here's a sign I saw. So as somebody strapped with student loan debt, don't worry about it. You need some books, donate some plasma. These are normal sort of things capitalism is pushing these days. You got UPS drivers complaining about how hot it is because they're not allowed to keep their vans running while they're dropping deliveries off.
I think some of them don't even have air conditionings in their truck. They have monitors to see what they're doing, and they don't have air conditioning. Yeah, and then this other thing is, and they're closing stores all over the country: Amazon, Walmart, Starbucks, Chipotle, any place where union activity is starting. They're closing stores, and I think we've mentioned before that the complaints to the Labor Rights Board have skyrocketed, but of course we've defunded the gosh, I'm going to get the acronym wrong, but the Labor Rights Board. So they can't even investigate all of these in a timely fashion, but at least it's happening, right? The new push that I don't know if you saw, there was 4 different articles in the New York Times, was to get people back to the office because white collar workers have been allowed since COVID to work from home, which a lot of people find much more manageable, pleasant, better work-life balance. But the problem is all these huge real estate developers who rent out office space are worried that the companies are going to stop leasing office space, right? So here's Malcolm Gladwell slams working from home. What have you reduced your life to? Then another piece: what we lose when work gets too casual. Don't return to the office for your boss, go back for yourself. So, they're putting the pressure on.
They really amped this up in the last week or two. We both noticed that how much all of a sudden they're pushing this narrative of get back to work, NLRB. Thank you, Celeste.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Celeste. I've had a lot to drink.
It's yeah, we pre-gamed early because we had another show to do. But yeah, it's the whole narrative of, I mean, you see all these stories about how like, oh, teeny homes are great. Like it's better. Teeny homes are better for you. And
yeah,
and
renting is better actually.
Low
Have you
wage
seen
is
that?
a good lesson if you're young. Renting is better.
Renting is better. It gives you freedom.
Yeah, and I support the bicycle movement, but like, you know, how climate change is good because you'll be biking to work, or like, you know, losing your car is great because you'll get all that exercise on your bike ride to work, you know.
Yeah, it's like the COVID brain fog. Here's the silver lining of long COVID is the brain fog, because then you don't need to deal with all the chaos in here.
Honestly, that's probably accurate. That one is probably correct.
That's why I drink so much. Should we spin? It's getting so late. I didn't realize what time it was.
Oh, well, you're not sleeping tonight, so we'll just go on forever.
So we can keep going. Okay.
It's going to get very real.
Yeah, baby.
Ooh, barely.
Uh-oh. Oh my God. Maybe I'll fall asleep really early. Maybe I will get to sleep. Maybe I'll pass out at like 9.
You're welcome.
Cheers. Cheers, my friend. Cheers, everybody.
I'm liking my new whiskey.
Yeah, what is it? We didn't even talk about what we're drinking today.
Seattle whiskey, backbeat bourbon.
Oh, okay.
It's like a hair up from Bullet Bourbon. I like to spend like $5 more than the normal brand.
All right. So look at you.
That's my gamble.
Your highfalutin taste.
Yeah. Bougie.
Bougie. You're so bougie. Wait, I already drank mine. Did you drink yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like to pour in advance to be efficient.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, baby.
There's another shot's coming.
Yes, you were so smart to pour it in advance. Now I have to waste all that time pouring another shot.
And that sound effect fit.
That was a good one. I like it.
That one's the winner.
All right, you ready?
Cheers. Cheers again.
Cheers, everybody.
Ooh.
Oh my God. I still have to drink.
You know, I have never not worked after our show because we have not drank enough, Lila. we need to get so tanked and stay on air for so long that
just pass out.
We just
on air.
That'll be a highlight clip that we'll put out to the world.
Can you imagine? Oh, I'm dropping things now.
That's a good start.
Bottle.
That's
my mixer. Yeah, right. I like how my green bottle doesn't show up. All right.
It must be green.
It is.
All right, let's
rigged wheel.
The algorithm.
Oh no! What?
And the correct sound. Perfect.
Here we go.
That is so perfect. Oh, I have to pour though. This is why we need interns. Someone could be pouring my whiskey for me.
Oh yeah, that's why I had kids. I need to get them in here.
But we'd be. Oh my God, that was the alcohol talking. We would be equals. My alcohol pourer as a socialist / communist.
Totally, I give my kids shots all the time.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Still good. What are people saying? Oh, I liked that when we had our very serious last guest on. Chris Hayes is a scat muncher. His name. you put his comment up, and I'm like, I agree with the comment, but maybe we should have waited a little bit.
I didn't read that. The top. I just read the comment. That's funny, Chris.
I still enjoyed it. He probably looked. I think I saw him make eye contact with it and try to ignore it. I don't need to be part of that.
Oh, that's funny. All right.
Kiko, cheers.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
This will keep it light.
This was hilarious to me. You know, at 3 a.m. when I have my insomnia, and I'm looking, and Gwen Eiffel posts something about like all the monkey attacks and how crazy it is. I'm like, wait, what? So this was the video that first opened my eyes to some new thing happening. Okay, ready? Watch. I'm narrating the whole thing and nobody can hear me.
I don't
Could
think
you
I
hear
could.
anything I was saying?
No, it was all
No.
muted to me. I
Oh,
don't know.
sorry. All right. So that was a 2-year-old being attacked by a monkey. First, the 2-year-old's 3 siblings had it up on a ladder. What? Then
Can I just?
yeah.
I just want to speak for the men out there. Equality is great, but you are the stronger species of those two. Like, he was way stronger than her. She was a badass, and
I
he
don't
was
think
like,
he was that much stronger. Clearly, he had him in his flip flop.
He was giving these little toe flicks. Like, what the hell was that? Like, come on, dude. It's your kid.
That monkey meant
that was embarrassing.
Business. And the mom and they kept coming after her and the baby, the 2-year-old on a ladder. I still can't, like, honestly, the most horrifying thing about all of that is that the parents weren't around when those 4 kids were there with the 2-year-old on the ladder. And then they all jet out of there, leaving the 2-year-old, who, by the way, suffered, I think, bites and was like in intensive care, had an operation. That wasn't a joke.
Oh, I mean, like, why are you ruining the fun of this?
I'm sorry.
God damn it. God damn it.
That dad should have used his flip-flop harder. So it turns out that was a Ukrainian family who had sought refuge with a Russian billionaire, and his next door neighbor had a zoo. Okay. So that monkey escaped from this, exotic animal, like Michael Jackson style zoo, attacks it. But then I was like, but wait, Gwen Ifill said something about like this rash of attacks. Well, it turns out that these attacks are happening all over Japan. Look at that monkey looking in the window at the bottom there.
Hey,
people in the Japanese city of Yamaguchi have come under attack from monkeys that are trying to snatch babies, biting and clawing at flesh, and sneaking into nursery schools. A special unit has been hired to hunt the animals with tranquilizer guns. Monkey gang member executed in Japan as marauding macaques run amok. Oh, that's a lot. Whoever came up with that headline was just trying to mess me up. Anyway, I think it's just proving that we're at the end of the world.
It really feels like it. Like, there's so many things happening that are bad that it's like our government is doing nothing about it. Even and this is the only hope we have, is that people are, if you're a leftist Democrat that thought the Democratic Party was going to save you from climate change, whatever else you think, and you're seeing what's happening now, like, it's not that hard to get woken up. It's just, will they fall for the propaganda again about, like,
I think it's that Pied Piper strategy that really is effective, because there's always something worse. So it's like
the other side is going to just be worse, but it's going to be, both sides are sliding to worse, worse and worse.
I know. I know.
But yeah, we got monkeys attacking people in broad daylight. And
crazy times. All right. One last one, or where do you think?
What do we got left? We're doing, at least one. Come on. You're up, you're up till 3:30.
I got 9.5 more hours. Oh,
there we go. The universe has spoken.
The universe has spoken. Cheers. Cheers. Oh my God.
You should continue the show on your flight.
Oh my God.
You should go on your flight and then have a bottle of alcohol and do shots and like live stream and the whole thing.
Yeah. The only problem is I will have an N95 strapped to my face and not take it off for 6.5 hours. I do not want to go on a plane right now in the middle of another spike, I don't even think we've come down from a spike in months.
You don't even have to mask now, so we're safe. It's all good.
Thanks, Delta CEO.
I love that. Like next week, my coworker is gone because he's going to a vacation in Cabo.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a vaccine. He's never been vaccinated. I drive around in a car every day with him.
Ugh.
He's actually a good guy, but like
Yeah.
he's like I'm not going to convert him. It's just so fucked. I wear my mask 90% of the time, and but anyway, there's no flight. You don't have to wear a mask. You don't have to have a vaccine card.
No.
You don't have to have anything. You just have to sign some papers.
Joe Rogan was right all along.
Yeah, right before you get on the plane, you just have to sign something saying I don't have COVID like yesterday or something.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I feel pretty good. It's just allergies.
Yeah, I'm sneezing. And even if you have COVID, if you literally have COVID and you have symptoms and are
just a suggestion.
And they wonder why, like, okay, so look at the industries right now that are like having trouble recruiting people. They're all the groups that have to deal with the public.
Yep.
Restaurant workers,
teachers,
hotel teachers, airlines. So that's because all the groups where people are in an enclosed environment.
Yep.
Because they're getting COVID, fucking idiots. Like that's why it's
so great. And I'm just gonna put this up here because I know they keep trying to talk about how the country's over it. I think the country doesn't trust Pfizer or the CDC, but every time people are polled, they still support a mask mandate if they're being told that it's necessary. This was just this past week month. That was July 15th to 18th. So what is that? That's almost a month ago. But still 70% want to wear a mask if they're told that it's necessary. They're just keeping it from them.
But they are just told it's not necessary. They are told repeatedly in messaging that it's not necessary. It's not the end of the world. Meanwhile, we have like the actual CDC director. Don't we have I think we might have an image on that. But saying like, yeah, she masks herself to protect her immunocompromised friends.
Yeah.
But so why don't you like if that is an actual solution for immunocompromised people, why wouldn't you recommend that for everyone? Like why isn't recommend. The problem is recommend doesn't cause people to change their behavior.
Right.
You have to get out there and say, do it. And then people will still obviously disregard mandates.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. Like there's never been any policing on the mandates anyway. So like put it out there, say you should do this. And then people think it's an actual risk because the government is trying to protect you. Some people are still going to ignore it, but like it will increase mask wearing, increase protections for people. There's no doubt that that's the case. But people.
Another 9/11 last week. 2,754 people died last week. So it's not over. But I was reading this. Let's see. This was from an article. Sorry, I'm not. Oh, here. This article about how Pfizer won the pandemic, reaping outside profit and influence. And inside it, they talk about how when societies abandon other efforts to control COVID spread, such as mask mandates and physical distancing, Pfizer's prospects look even brighter, especially now that the company has brought out the first oral COVID treatment, Paxlovid. People are going to go get out there. President of Pfizer Biopharmaceuticals Group told her investors, we know with all of that, infections are going to increase, and that's the role that Paxlovid can play. So it is actually to their benefit, of course, and that's what they've lobbied really hard to get everybody out there, keep getting reinfected. You're going to need another booster. And listen, I'm 100% pro-science. I've had the 2 shots. I've had my 2 boosters. Everybody in my house says I wear a mask every time I'm indoors in public. But it's I don't trust Pfizer. I just, saw that all the rich white people were getting the fucking boosters. So I figured it's probably good for me to try to get it too. But like, I don't trust big pharma about this.
Yeah. And that's so where the left, look, we should not trust big pharma. I get it. We shouldn't. None of us should trust big pharma or big pharma's. And this is where I see all these leftist people that they tend to back WikiLeaks, and I have back WikiLeaks, but it's not my personality per se. But
Right.
The people who are very like anti-vax, okay, if you're going to be anti-vax, just give me some justification for the entire world of doctors, not your chiropractor, not some guy selling some sort of bullshit. Like, the world of doctors understands at least that the vaccine does protect you from serious death. Now,
Right.
you can argue about the boosters, but these people, we're not arguing about the boosters. They're arguing that this is all bullshit, and
Right.
that vaccines don't actually save you, and the masks don't
Right.
work. First off, if you're arguing against wearing a mask, I don't fucking care what you have to say. Like, fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
literally, fuck you.
Yeah.
It's a mask. Like, it's not causing harm to you. I do physical work every day for 8 hours a day wearing a goddamn mask.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't have any sympathy for your argument, period. If your thing is about masks, if you're about mandating, there's nuance to these things.
That's different. But nobody's doing that anyway. Like, that's not even happening.
Nobody, there's no forced vaccination. There's mandating for employment in certain industries or whatever. But anyway, I took us on a ride here. I don't know what that was, but what the hell were we talking about? I'm just mad right now.
I know, I am too, but
the anti-mask people are the dumbest fucks. I don't.
I know. I think they think, and here's the problem is because there's such an enormous profit incentive. It is hard to trust, it's hard to trust the CDC. It's hard to trust. Of course, I don't trust Pfizer. But I don't trust the CDC. I don't trust the Biden administration. I certainly didn't trust the Trump administration. I mean, so like, that's the problem, is that because everything is privatized, everything has a profit motive, and they clearly are not making decisions or advice according to the science, they have completely lost any credibility and trust.
Yeah. If you had just reasonable doctors, or like the head of the AMA, or, if you had some of these scientists on TV instead of the propagandist people who don't really, it's not even their expertise. Virology is not their expertise.
No.
Dr. Leanna Wynn, total complete garbage.
Yeah.
If you had these people on TV saying, look, masks work and the vaccine works, we don't know this, and they're honest about things, people would look at things differently. But the message is that things are safe, and
get out there and go back to work.
Just go to work, whatever.
Do not work from home.
You've got Paxlovid. Don't work from home. Being poor is great.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever.
When the nuclear war happens, just brush it, run inside and get under your desk. All right, let's do it. Let's end on a funny moment with our savior.
Who's our savior?
Since we kind of just did, Dark Brandon, because we kind of just did COVID.
What do we have on Dark Brandon? I don't even know. I forget.
Oh, well, first of all, they're trying really hard to make this a thing. Here's Dark Brandon. Malarkey terminated. He's come to save us all. There was another one of him on like a Game of Thrones throne, ridiculous. This is more of this ridiculous myth making of Biden and Kamala.
Saving democracy.
Saving democracy in the US and Lady Liberty. What was this? Dark Brandon. Yeah, well, I mean, this is what.
Well, this is the ridiculous. The right is going to react to this because it's ridiculous. Like, he's not like.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Meanwhile, here's the real Dark Brandon this week. Oh, look, he shook Schumer's hand.
Now our great speaker, our partner, who all of these bills we've met.
He forgot he shook his hand. It happened a few seconds back. Come on now.
We're not talking about like a minute or 30 seconds. We're talking like 5 seconds later, he forgets he shook his hand and offers to shake his hand again. I mean,
Dark Brandon, baby, coming to save the US. Well, I heard that his polling went up to 40% now. So
positive.
Yay.
It's just such a battle.
Oh, sad.
The right has to just be so awful that he could win, and that might even be happening.
They might actually snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. I could see them doing it. Yeah.
Anyway,
all right. Well, this is a
Support
positive
unions.
moment. Support unions. This is what happened at a Starbucks where they fired somebody who was trying to unionize. And that is how we take our country back.
Yeah. Unions. We didn't do our union bit, did we? We talked about it on the show we were on last. So it feels
no,
like
we did a lot of union stuff.
Did we?
Well,
you want to
okay.
shake my hand again, Lila.
Shake my hand again. All right, Dark Brandon. Right. This was really fun. Sorry, I'm reading a comment about Hunter Biden, which we should really get into that because there's a lot of malarkey going on with that whole disgusting nepotism there, but that we can do that on another show. But yeah, I do think that the Hunter Biden stuff is going to come back to really destroy whatever might be left of Biden's presidency. Unions, solidarity, strikes are where our power is.
That's all we have left. I mean, vote for the right people. If there's an actual progressive, vote for them, please. I mean, even if you think they're probably progressive, as long as the alternative is, I'm not trying to say lesser evil, but like, I don't want to discourage people from voting for progressives ever, because even if we pass legislation by ballot initiative, like we all get out there and we force this issue on our politicians. If we have these people in power with a few progressives can change how that bill ends up.
Yep.
You know,
so, they're better. You know what? They're better targets for our activism. I think you're voting for the target of your activism.
I'm not lesser eviling it. Like, don't vote for Nancy Pelosi. Don't vote for Pelosi's kid. Don't vote for
But
then
honestly, the other thing,
don't vote for 90% of Democrats. But if there's a good one, if you happen to be lucky, like don't just because you have a D, like there are people that will run because there is no other option to win in a place, and they're Democrats. So if you trust them, vote for them. That's all.
But I do also think that the other place is to keep finding some joy so that we don't all get super depressed and unhappy. So that is just bringing me back to our hour that we get, our weekly hour that we get to spend together, having drinks, and misery loves company, but it's more fun than that. So thank you all for showing up every week. We really appreciate it. We love you guys.
Cheers. Thank you
so
much.
See you next week. Cheers. Keep punching up.